Welcome everybody to the February meeting of the Westover Hills Neighborhood Association. I'm Miles Keller, I'm president. We've got a few neighborhood updates, the normal guest reports, and we have some updates about our proposed 2022 budget and the adoption process, and a few proposals that might be coming down the line for March. So keep an eye on that. We'll try to put that out in the email and via social media and whatnot, so folks are aware, and if they want to come listen or comment on those things, we'd love to have your participation. But regardless, we're recording, so this will be posted for everybody who needs a catch up. So yeah, I don't see Lieutenant Andorfer, but we'll go. Kristen, you are up. You have the floor.
Thanks, Miles. And I was saying to Miles a couple of minutes ago, maybe before everybody hopped on, that I haven't heard anything from Andorfer or the other lieutenants in the area. So fingers crossed. No news is usually good news from the police. I do know they're still short-staffed, so that might be part of the reason he's not on. But if you look in the chat, I proactively put some information in there about recycling because I'm getting several emails a day about recycling. And if you're like me, your recycling is full. And it's been a little confusing about, yep, sorry, I'm reading Miles's note. Your recycling's full. For those of you who don't know, it is run by a agency that serves the counties as well as the city. And so it is, although we pay them to provide the service, it is somewhat out of our control. They've had a lot of issues on and off over the last 6 months. I'll definitely be circling back with Department of Public Works on this to see what we can do to make sure it doesn't continue to happen. However, this week they announced they are back on track, so you should be on your regular recycling pickup. But for updates, look in the chat and utilize their Facebook page or website to get the updates. Any questions on that? No, okay. Let's see, what else do I have? So we haven't talked about this in a while, but Airbnb is something that the city approved. I think we signed the legislation about 2 years ago. It's one of those things that you sign it in, and I mean, we had spent several years prior to that working on it, holding community meetings. For those of you who come to my district meetings, you might remember folks from the city coming and talking about that. So now that we put it in place, we are definitely discovering some challenges. For example, in the Southampton neighborhood, there is what I will gently call a bad actor. There's an Airbnb owner who has not registered their Airbnb. He lives out of town. I think it's like a 1-bedroom, and he lets the people entertain there and so on and so forth. So the enforcement has been lacking. It's super frustrating to me because this was an example I had brought to the administration prior to the policies being put in place, and felt like, okay, we're going to have the rules and regs we need to really rein this in and make sure everybody is being a good neighbor, essentially. So the city is in the stage of taking another look at it. Now is the time that if you all are operators or somebody on your block has it, if it's working, if it's not working, please share feedback, because I do know mostly about the problems. There might be some good example. Your neighbor might even have it and you might not even know about it, and maybe they're just being a good neighbor and following the rules as they should be. But now is the time to reach out if you do have any feedback. And I'm happy to discuss more if folks have comments or questions, or you can certainly reach out to me offline. Anything? Okay. Collective bargaining is something. So next topic. Collective bargaining is something that the city had been given the authority by the General Assembly to enact. For those of you that follow it, Virginia hasn't had collective bargaining for 40 years. So that changed when the General Assembly gave us this authority last year, and we are currently working on it. I firmly believe that our employees should have the right to unionize and to gather and negotiate for the best pay and the best work environment. And so you'll likely be hearing a lot about that over the next couple months. It will probably take a couple years to really solidify it, but this is something that we are spending a great deal of time on right now. So again, if you have any comments, feedback, or anything, I'm happy to discuss this issue with you. Okay. And the last thing is kind of a personal note. You may notice my name changed. It has not been overnight, but so Kristen Nye is my birth name. I was married. I've decided to go back to my birth name. And so Kristen Larson is old news. Kristen Nye is what I'm using now. My email is kristen.nye@rva.gov. The old email, I think still works. I think IT did the magic and made all that happen. And I am in a weird state of transition for those of you who have changed your name, where I'm I'm still trying to figure it all out myself. But I did figure out how to change it on the Zoom, and I wanted to just point that out tonight. So when you see stuff coming from my office, you'll know who it is. And that's all I have for tonight, but I'm happy to take any questions, comments.
Do you have anything?
Okay.
Oh, we appreciate it, Kristen Nye.
Thank you, Miles Keller.
Got it.
Okay, I'm gonna drop, but as always, you guys can email me or call me or text me if you need anything, and I'll put my cell phone in the chat, but I think everybody has it. So it's great to see everybody, and I'll see you again soon.
We appreciate it, and I corrected your name in the agenda as well. So.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Kristen. Take care.
Thanks.
All right. So next up, let's see. Darn it. I already messed it up, Will. Okay, there we go. There's my one window tab. Okay, so we got Kristen. Thank you so much. John, you're up, sir. You have the floor.
Thanks, Miles. Appreciate it. Terrific to see everyone. Look forward to see you in person soon, prayerfully. Miles, like the West River Hills Neighborhood Association, Richmond Public Schools, we're working on our budget, and yours truly has introduced $18 million in budget amendments to what would constitute the largest budget in the city of Richmond Public Schools history. Specifically, superintendent's proposed budget is $554.4 million, a significant year-over-year increase that is largely attributed to a lot of the federal monies that we are in receipt of from, for example, ESSER dollars, ARP, et cetera. But I won't spend too much time in the weeds unless you request it of me. Big picture, last time I was on the call with you, I did convey some of what I intended to achieve in this budget. So absent being told to the contrary, I'll just speak to that real briefly. Career and technical education, it's a priority. Unfortunately, as long as I've been on the board, now in my 6th year, and I have to own this as much as anyone, but we have been woefully inadequate relevant to investing and prioritizing career and technical education. So yours truly has proposed a $2 million increase that to fund 20 additional teachers, 20 new FTEs for career and technical education, specifically to provide a whole school model, or not quite a whole school model, but something closer to a whole school model, i.e. in lieu of students getting on a bus at Huguenot High School and traversing the city to go all the way over to Westwood just to take a class. Instead, they would also take some of their core classes over at the Technical Center campus. They do have capacity in meeting with building leadership over there at the Technical Center. They encouraged us, specifically my colleagues and I, to think about adding STEM classes to supplement, again, the CTU courses. That's a priority, and speak to that in more detail if there's interest. But career and technical education is a real opportunity, in my opinion, to provide our students, to provide our secondary or high school students in particular with the kind of skill and training that will go a long way in benefiting them. Another really important opportunity for us is scaling our enrollment at our specialty school. So think of community high school, think of Franklin Military Academy, think of Code RVA, which is not unlike our governor schools, i.e. Maggie Walker and Appomattox, i.e. these are regional schools. We have an opportunity to increase our allotment. We have an opportunity to provide more families, more choice relevant to the kinds of options they have. So again, I've proposed an increase of $2 million to provide for students, for families to have more of those kinds of choices. Professional development. You've probably heard me at some point in my tenure on this board speak to when I first came on the board in 2017. I remember the Richmond Education Association had just surveyed all of our teachers. We have a little over 2,000 teachers, and they had surveyed all of our teachers, and 75% of the respondents said that they found zero to no value in the professional development that RPS was offering. We've moved the needle a little in that regard, so I want to give credit where credit is due, but I've proposed $500,000 to provide stipends to allow our teachers to shop PD and to participate in off-site professional development and then compensate them accordingly. Dual language programming inspired by our own Allison Okubi right across the street, i.e. students would participate in, these are elementary classes, they would participate in English half of the week in the classroom, and then another language, principally Spanish, the other half of the week. Another $500,000 increase for multi-sensory classrooms. We all know that what I'm doing now, i.e. chatting audio, is for a lot of folks the least effective of the 5 senses. So the objective is to provide classrooms that meet our students where they're at and provide a principal sensory classroom in sense and touch. We are, I believe, still have too many persons in City Hall and central office. So I have proposed reducing a number of positions, specifically 19 positions from central office, instead using those dollars to fund those priorities that I just delineated with you, in addition to others. I'm proposing, for example, monies to incentivize looping. That's principally at the elementary level. I'd love to do it Westover Hills Elementary, Fisher Elementary, which is a little further to the west, but pretty close to Chesterfield. The principal or interim principal there has conveyed that that's a priority for her. The point is, in everything that we do, I want to recognize that we have to have people in the buildings that want to do it. It's not about imposing a one-size-fits-all solution on all of our schools, but instead piloting different programs. The point is, and I'd welcome opportunity if there are questions to speak to it more, but a budget north of $500 million provides us a lot opportunity to do a lot. Yours truly has introduced budget amendments that amount to 3.2% or a little over 3 cents on the dollar. But I obviously am encouraging my colleagues to reciprocate and to also put some real money on the table relevant to their priorities. And fortunately, we've got it. This board is very interesting. It's very unlike the last board. I won't speak to that in depth, except to say that there is some real commonality among some of us pertinent to our priorities. Bottom line, we have a lot of opportunity for improvement in Richmond Public Schools. We all agree on that. We have some difference of opinion pertinent to how we're going to achieve that. You likely have heard a lot of conversation about virtual. Yesterday evening, for example, there was a lot of discussion pertinent to our virtual academy. We started with about 2,000 students participating. At the top of the year, we now have about 1,500 students. I'm of the perspective, and I've shared this since the onset, to be clear and full disclosure, I'm not an advocate. I'm not a fan of virtual learning. I see how my students have not performed in the same way, but I also believe at the same time, I'm not an advocate of virtual. I also am an advocate for always meeting the customer where they're at. And the truth is that long before COVID, we had a lot of students in circumstances for all different kinds of reasons where virtual may make more sense. So I do believe it's important that we retain virtual and that we retain virtual for more than just students that may may have medical conditions that would warrant some environment other than in the classroom. You can think of, for example, a student who may be caretaking for a child at household, all kinds of different reasons. My point is, I don't know what is best for a parent's child. The parent knows what's best. So I believe it's best to defer to them. You likely hear a lot of conversation relevant to virtual Chromebooks. And you know that we have an audit underway. We're still missing thousands of Chromebooks. They're unaccounted for. So you can anticipate a lot more news in that regard. School construction, briefly, you know that yours truly wants to build three new schools, to do it concurrently. Again, I've talked about that probably at long length at these meetings, so I won't belabor the point this evening. Miles, I'm perhaps doing what I didn't intend to do, which is get into the weeds and share a lot of detail. Bottom line is that we will next year, if all the budget assumptions in the superintendent's proposal materialize, spend $20,850 per student. That's thousands of dollars more than the counties. I share that in the context to say that we have more than adequate money to do what we need to do in Richmond Public Schools. It's a matter of prioritizing those dollars so that we're meeting all of our students where they're at. Obviously, a lot of other topics relevant to Richmond Public Schools. I do want to be respectful and not monopolize the whole agenda, but gladly entertain any questions pertinent to dollars and cents, either the budget and or anything else going on in schools.
Does anybody have anything for John? I've got one. Just when you were talking about CTE, it popped up because of work in community college. In that environment, how's the partnership with J. Sargent Reynolds? Because I'm sure they have dual programs, but I feel like that's like such a good avenue to leverage for getting students different opportunities to train and go into adulthood and past age 18 with a bunch of credits or really close to a credential of some sort.
Yeah, thank you, and really appreciate what you do relevant to community college system. So we do have a partnership with Reynolds specifically. It's called the ECA, which is short for Early College Academy. It is a dual enrollment program, but I really can't embellish. I'm not going to adopt any hyperbole. I don't need to. This has really been a shortcoming. It's really been something that yours truly and my colleagues and the superintendent, we have not invested in. We have to put this in perspective. Though granted, Henrico County is a lot larger of a school district than Richmond, but still, they have more students participating. Henrico has more students participating in their dual enrollment program at one school, i.e. at Highland Springs, than we have in the entire city of Richmond, the entire Richmond Public Schools. It constitutes an opportunity for us to do something a lot bigger. To that end, we have a 290,000 square foot building at the intersection of Maury and Route 1 on South Side, just south of downtown. That facility was donated to us by Altria, and that will be our new career and technical high school. Yours truly, along with Jason Cameron, superintendent, we hosted Paula Pando, the president. I call her new, still relatively new. She's been there like 3 years now, but at Reynolds, and she committed very publicly to a partnership with RPS to co-locate in that facility, to provide training, to provide resources, curriculum for both RPS students, so high school students, but also J. Sarge Reynolds students. So very excited for what that can mean, the opportunity to share resources. Again, it's a really big facility, 290,000 square feet. Put that in context, the new George Wythe that we're going to erect is 260,000 square feet to accommodate 1,600 students. This facility, 290,000, even bigger. If you have any familiarity with the old Clover Hill High School, which was converted into a current technical high school out there on Hull Street Road for Chesterfield County, it's about 190,000 square feet. They've got 1,000 students in there, along with a lot of administrative space. So my point is to say we can do something really big. And yes, in partnership with Reynolds, they've committed to it. They recognize that they don't have all the capacity relevant to brick and mortar for all their curriculum. It's a really terrific question. I appreciate it, Miles.
Thanks. Does anybody else have anything? Okay. I don't see anything in the chat, so thank you, John.
Thanks, Miles. Appreciate it, sir. Thank you, everyone.
Of course. All right. Let's see. Go back to share. All right. So next up, we have our neighborhood updates. We'll talk real quick about the proposed 2022 budget, and just before we look at the actual line items, we'll just talk about the adoption process. It's reviewed by all of the neighborhood officers. Generally, we present the budget to the general membership in this meeting, and so obviously this will be recorded as well, so people will be able to review if they do so desire, and then eventually we'll send out a voting form the entire neighborhood board can vote on to approve the budget. So that's just generally how that works. Quick bylaws. But let's look at it real quick. And anybody alert me if they see people waiting in the participants list to get in, if there's like a person popping in, because I can't see it at the moment, but it doesn't look like anybody's popping in at the moment. So at the top, we're starting with the top left is our proposed budget. The right are the actuals from last year. And Melissa, you feel free to jump in at any point to let me know if you have anything. So we have the annual dues, the membership fee of $15 per household. So that kind of gives us kind of a baseline income. Last year, that was about $4,600. Newsletter ads, we get those ads, those get posted into the RAG. So those are kind of a bonus from the RAG that we pull in from that. Some of the picnic proceeds, those do not pay for the picnic, but we, that amounted to about $2,600 last year. So that helps pay for the picnic, but as you'll see in the expenses, that does not always pay for the picnic.
And Miles, if I can just say this, in comparing the budget to the actuals for 2021, we just have to remember 2020 and 2021 were just different years than we've normally had in the past. And it's really hard to judge the actuals to the budget. So the budget pretty much has it stayed the same to what we've done in normal years, if I can say it kind of that way.
Yeah, I appreciate you adding that. That's important. Okay, and then there's just a miscellaneous line item. We received some money from City of Richmond. Yep, and was that a private donor, Melissa, for the Clean Air Task Force?
Yep.
Yeah.
It was. Yep.
So those were income, but they were put back into the first thing in the expense column for last year, which was they made that donation, and that was to go as a community involvement expense. So that came in and immediately went back out to the Clean Air Task Force GoFundMe project. And part of that was helping to make Westover Hills neighborhood carbon neutral and or help reduce our footprint. So as far as expenses go, we have the community involvement fund. We have money, set aside in that part of the budget. Last year, that was just part of that GoFundMe project. So those are, people can submit. They can submit proposals for things in the community. We have a form for that, and I'll talk about at least one of those, here in a minute. For the elementary school, we pay a little bit of money that's for the lighting. Those are the median lightings, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
We have a little line item for gifts for outgoing presidents or committee members. House tour expenses right now, that's blank. We're not really, that's kind of still up in the air. That might be a next year kind of situation. Money set aside for the July 4th Children's Parade. There are a few expenses there, blocking off intersections and some of the features of that. Membership campaign, that's all the printing and materials for membership, for sending out the mailers and doing all that advertising for membership. The next two are holdover items. So the Merchant Association has money that they put into the neighborhood account. So those are always just there in case the Merchants Association wanted to take it out. So that amounts to, over $5,000. And you'll see at the end. So those are always there just in case they would be drawn, but they are not, as of right now, we haven't had draws from those accounts. We have the neighborhood cleanup, some just miscellaneous office supplies, the picnic, that line item's always in there. Our PO box fee, all the expenses associated with the RAG, our filing with the SCC, insurance, and we have the line item for the Thanksgiving dinner. If we're able to do that this year, that's there. Website maintenance, just everything to make sure that we keep that up. The welcome committee's line item for any gift bags and whatnot they need. yard of the month, yard sale expenses, and any miscellaneous bank fees, marketing funds. So the rough estimate for expenses is about 26,000, but keep in mind about over 5,000 of that is part of the Merchants Association and the capital improvements funds, which we're just holding. So those may or may not be distributed, but as far as the past couple of years, they have not drawn anything out of those accounts. So those are just there in case. So yeah, does anybody have any questions about the general budget or anything in it that they want to bring up?
Miles, can I just say one thing? Typically, we anticipate that our income will cover our expenses, and we don't normally have a lot of expenses, and it's kind of they're there in case we need it, or in case we need to talk about it or approve it or whatever, but we typically do not have all those expenses, and we have enough money to cover most of the things that we plan to do. If we do come up short, then we're just going to be drawing down cash, and roughly we have an average about $20,000 a month in the checking account.
Great, thank you, Melissa. Appreciate it. Ashley Hall has a question.
Hey, yeah, quick question. First off, thank you guys so much for the work going into this. That's awesome. I know it's been a weird last couple of years, and this is kind of starting from scratch in some ways. I was just curious, knowing, it's not really sure the timing on it, but the art project proposal at Jank and Forest Hill, I know when they were working on getting city support, there was the hope that there would be some local buy-in from our neighborhood and even individuals. I was curious would we want to put in money for that, or do we think that is something potentially coming from the community involvement fund? What are y'all thinking about that? And I don't know that they even have like a firm, deadline. So to your point, Melissa, it might be one that we put in and it doesn't get access this year, but just curious.
I'm not sure what that entails. And I guess if they start to, I think I remember this previously about putting artwork at the bus stops. I think that's what, where you're going on that, actually.
Yeah, it's for that intersection right there as one of the only, there's only 2 other art projects on South Side. I'm bummed that Kristen had to hop off because I think she's been keeping us pretty well updated, and it's a little bit in a pause right now. But when they had done those initial presentations, they were going to be going to council and the art commission, to try to get a portion of that covered. But I think the hope was that there would be some support from the neighborhood association, from maybe the merchant association, from, even like the school or, businesses right around there, just other folks. And I think, again, like it's hard to know because they haven't, even put out the RFP for projects yet. I think the farthest they've gotten is just the feedback from the neighborhood about what kind of, themes would show up. But I do think it would be, even if it's not a huge amount of money, I think if it gets to that, it would be a really good signal to the neighborhood, even if we only invested, $1,000 or something. I think that would be a really good signal that we wanted to support something like that. If other people feel the same, that's kind of how I feel, I guess. But yeah.
And I'm just going to say, it really wouldn't be a line item that we would put on our budget, because it would be a one-time, maybe involvement for the community, and we would just kind of take it out of our $3,500 that we have in our budget. That's exactly what we would use that for.
Okay, perfect. Yep. Awesome. Cool.
Yeah,
Thanks.
and we could use the exact form that Melissa sent. We can just, with we could shoot, I'll fill it out. And we'll put it, we'll do the little descriptor, and then we would bring it to general membership so they can okay it.
Just so you know, the process, Miles, is Dick Bragg is the head of that committee. He has about 5 members. I think it's 5 members on that committee that review the proposals. They ask any questions. He does it all by email. ask any questions, and then they go through and approve it for recommendation to go forward to the association.
Two of these. Okay.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's good to know too for the next bid. So, all right. And Ashley, you didn't have another thing. Your hands just, I think the raised hand. I don't know how to do that, but all right. Great. Does anybody else have anything for the budget? All right. Great. I'll go back. If I can find, there we go. Find the agenda again. So we had talked about when we were kind of reviewing the budget, we had also talked about a storage proposal. A bunch of folks on committees and in different capacities, such as our school liaison and some of the folks who work on the picnic and the parade, and our treasurer, and a bunch of folks have their yard of the month. They're storing things for the neighborhood on their own property, you know, in their sheds, in their basements, in their attics, in the back room. So quite a few folks had expressed interest in finding some kind of storage situation for all those things. Not necessarily something huge, but something functional, so that people can downsize some of the boxes and things that they're storing on behalf of the association and keeping. Fran, did you want to, do you have a thing or two just about that? You had kind of maybe looked at options.
Yeah, I actually followed, I think it was Melissa's suggestion, and went over to the Life Storage on, it's like maybe a mile from us at most, on Jank Road. They have a variety of storage unit sizes. So they range from basically 5 feet by 5 feet up to like 10 feet by 15 feet. Seems like 5 by 10 or 7.5 by 10 might be more what we're looking for. So I put together a little table of the prices per month, which vary based on whether we want climate control or not. And an interesting feature of their pricing is that you can only get pricing for anything that's available right now. Like they didn't have a 5 by 5 non-climate controlled unit available right now. So they couldn't give me a price because it changes based on supply and demand. So that's very interesting. But just to throw out some rough figures, like a 5 by 10 unit without climate control right now, or last week at the end of the week, was running $78 a month. I was thinking we would not need climate control. Is that probably true?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
so
I think that's right.
So I'll just give you some other examples. The 5 by 15 foot units run 106, and the 10 by 10, those were 118 as of last week. So we're probably looking like, for a 5 by 10 unit, it would be roughly $80, and for something a bit bigger, it might be 100 to 115.
Okay, so it seems like it's anywhere from about $1,000 to $1,300 or something like that. That would be per year that we would need to set aside. So great, appreciate you scouting out that situation for us.
Sure.
Do you have anything else, or?
No, that was my only bit. I think somebody else was going to be looking or pursuing the church to see if they had space that they would donate or rent to us, but I don't know about that.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think either Tom or Virginia, we're gonna look into that. But this is more of like a let's find the best option over the course of this year, and then hopefully we can make it a budget item next year. So
Sounds good.
set that up. So appreciate you scouting that. And so yeah, we're just putting that on the radar for just putting that out so folks know about it, and we can support all the people that take space out of their houses and sheds and rooms and things to help out the neighborhood. But yeah, appreciate it. Next up, let's see. So I have an update for
Miles, before we go off to the next topic, though, I don't know if we're doing the what is it? The cart before the horse, but but I really would like to know more about what we anticipate to purchase versus the storage boxes. To me, just seem real minimal. I mean, and that's just kind of moving from house storage or whatever, or moving the flags or moving, the signs, that kind of thing. But I think the equipment part that maybe as large from an expense projection standpoint, that we really need to have kind of some discussion on that. And I don't know if Carrie was thinking of coming up with something, and we, could kind of look at a proposal that we could decide upon what, we would spend out of our cash budget, out of our cash, account, kind of a thing. That's what I think we kind of need to have a more of an idea before we get down to the size of the unit and signing something. But
yeah, definitely. And just for the general membership, what Melissa's referencing is Carrie Rogers, is that right?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, she was talking about potentially purchasing some of the things we use year over year for like the picnic and the parade. So factoring those how big those things are into that proposed storage space is definitely something we'll try to hammer out over the course of this year and figure out. So be good to kind of reduce some of those recurring expenses a little bit by just putting some money up front, and then not being able to put that in whatever storage we need, so that that's all dealt with. But yeah, we'll definitely discuss and come up with a good plan, and we'll see what Carrie has as far as a proposal. So all right, anything else on that point? Yeah. All right. So yeah, real quick, I've got an update from Cynthia Schmitz, our elementary school liaison. Let me pull that up real quick. So she just wanted to give a brief update about the things folks have done since the last newsletter. So I think she's referencing the RAG. Things that, and these are things that folks have done, just vigilante. She's asked for volunteers. Our neighborhood has provided $200 to $300 of books that are in high demand for from the school's book vending machine. They were not able to keep up with demand for Dogman and Wimpy Kid books. Hard to find, I think. Our neighborhood provided $875 in Food Lion gift cards to help families with food needs over the winter holiday. Folks provided clothing and toiletry items for the community and schools coordinator to distribute as needed. We all provided over 50 boxes of Valentine cards for children who will participate in a communities and schools program focused on friendship and love. Most of these children wouldn't have Valentines to distribute to their class otherwise, due to financial or, time constraints for their parents. Ongoing support for teachers who need things collated and assembled. This task is done by people just at home volunteering. And in March, volunteers will assist with the Read Across America Day. A lot of this help will be from home. And as always, more volunteers are welcome, says Cynthia. And Cynthia's email, Fran, if you can take this down, is cynSSch@verizon.net. So that's Cynthia Schmitz. So she's our elementary school liaison, so she's always keeping an eye out for what's going on over there and how best to support the students. And she had also talked about she's going to put up a proposal for some of that community involvement money from the budget, to do things ad hoc where, you know, maybe folks aren't able to put up money, then she can have some money to draw from to support the elementary school. So as we discussed back during the budget portion, she'll submit that. That'll go for approval, and then we'll bring that to the membership.
So
So
Miles, just FYI, when she does make that request for, like, if it's $500 that she wants to use towards something, and we really don't know what the something is, or we kind of like need to know what the something is so that we can approve, you know, what the benefit of that particular request is. So I just don't think it's just a line item to say $500 to use for the school system. We kind of like to have some kind of substance around it and what it will be used for.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Yep. Hey, Frank.
I thought it might be useful to say, maybe for people who aren't at this meeting but listening to the recording, that the money that she indicated, like the $200 to $300 worth of books and the Food Lion gift cards, I think those were all donations and did not come from the budget per se.
That's
Yep,
right.
that's
correct.
right.
Yep.
Yep, those were all donations from volunteers and just calls
It's
to
from-
action to the
It's from
neighborhood.
neighborhood residents actually provided a lot of what you've just read. Is most of it's from the neighborhoods, people themselves. Yep.
All right. So that was Cynthia's update. And unless anybody has anything else, my only last point was just to remind folks to add some submissions to the best over box, and we'll read them here at the end of the meeting. But we'll make sure we'll put that link again back in the email, and we'll put the minutes for this and the link for next month's meeting. We'll put that into the email, and we'll also put that on Facebook as well, so that it's just, you know, easy to access, all there for folks who want it, and yeah, have all the information out there. But unless anybody has anything else, I will stop recording. All right. Well, y'all take care. Have a good evening, and then we'll be in touch soon.
Thank you.
Hey, thank
Appreciate
you.
y'all coming
Bye-bye.
out.
Thanks. Bye.